actually work this time. I'm very excited. Hi, chat room. Sound okay for you guys? I'm checking
Yeah, your levels are great.
Good. Okay, and I'm checking the stream as well to see if they can hear you and me and all that stuff too as well before we get started. Excuse me. Here we go. Morning, everybody.
$40 seconds.
Excellent.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the vibes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the new year. Welcome to a brand new show. Welcome, Johnny Million, in studio with us. So good to talk to you again, my friend. You had a good new year?
I did. How about you?
I had a terrific one, actually. I was in Seattle. I performed in Seattle on New Year's Eve this year.
Did you do a countdown?
I did, on stage with the other comics that opened for me. It was actually a great time, and packed house, a lot of fun. Always love being in Seattle, anyways. And then the next morning, my girlfriend and I hopped on a train to Vancouver at 7 o'clock in the morning and literally went up for the day. It was like a 3.5-hour train ride both ways. So we decided on a whim to get on the train as early as we could and ride it up to Vancouver, be up there for about 5-6 hours. Plenty to kind of do a quick sightsee, hit a couple of spots, and then hop on a train and ride it back. And it was like that lazy, reflective day that most people have on New Year's Day after, I guess, imbibing too much and all that kind of stuff, which she and I don't do, but whatever. We just had on a train instead.
Oh,
and it was
that's awesome.
And it speaks to, I think, why this country needs better trains, because I actually found it to be an intellectually and emotionally healthy experience. And
because a plane is almost like magic.
yeah, and it's
You
stressful
just
and it's
sort of
quick.
Right.
Right. You don't, there's no like, you most of the time, you just, if you can do anything, you can sleep or watch a movie. But on a train, there's an element of like looking out the window as the country goes by that I think is immensely satisfying and mentally
I've heard that you
healthy.
can watch or sleep or watch the miles go by. You're a
Yes.
metro, the way to really fly.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard that, but I did that. That wasn't expressed to me at some point. That being said, I also, I don't know if you've been,
Yes.
I'm healing my voice back.
Oh, that's right. I forgot why we
Yeah.
didn't do a show last week.
Right, exactly, because I burned it out doing 2 shows in a row on New Year's is really what it was, and doing a countdown.
You guys want to see some loud comedy?
Yeah,
Al
right.
Sparks.
That's right. I do not phone it in ever.
No.
Not ever. So
Never accused of being low energy.
no, and then so let's get this year started right. I wanna set a tone so we understand what reality is, and then I want to point a picture at the mental view of the United States and the world that a certain segment of the population have that is driving their activity to a maniacally silly level. And I do mean the Trump followers and the Oregon standoff militia wannabes, which we're going to talk at great length about.
Yeah, there's a great Daily Show bit on the Oregon, the
Yeah.
land grab there, and just how the federal government just does not care.
Not at all. And by the way, it's not an accident that they don't care. This is post Ruby Ridge and Waco. There's a whole new playbook for dealing with these guys.
Yeah,
And-
let's watch them get tired.
Exactly. That's what it is. Just cut the power and sit back and they'll leave. It's just essentially it. So, but let's add a little context, shall we? After 30,000 people a year have died from gun injuries, and not that, I don't even believe that counts suicides, in total, the president has announced a modest yet long-awaited series of mild gun reforms through executive action. Mainly that if you're going to sell a gun, you have to do a background check. I don't care if he's your neighbor. Because the San Bernardino guys were that guy's neighbor. I don't care. And so, and it's not, that is, and let's, for the record, for all of you Alex Jones flip out fans, let's be real
Do
clear.
his fans love cake too?
They'd have to. I mean, they probably. My view of like every prepper who actually listens to Alex Jones, that instead of MREs and cans of soup, they just have frozen cake. But that's a mental,
CRE.
right? So
See what I did there? I
Yes, you
figured
did.
out
It
the
was
first
beautiful.
letter of the word cake. Yeah.
I did, yeah, and you swapped it, and it was funny. The so which is about as much thought as went into the idea
Right.
that these people would live this way. So, if you, I know, big fans of that, your ability to keep and bear arms, is not really affected by your ability to sell arms. Your ability to profit off of a product has no bearing to your rights to actually have that product. And as a matter of fact,
which is where people should really notice what the NRA gets upset about.
Yes, right.
It's about the
Sales.
sales.
Right,
Yeah.
because they are a lobby organization for an industry that sells a product that is specifically for the purpose of killing people. Because they're really the National Handgun Association. Rifles don't need any help. Nobody's coming for hunting rifles. Never have, never will. But handguns are killing a lot of people, and automatic weapons and the like. So anyways, before we get too far off off track, the ability to sell something because you're allowed to have it there is tons of precedent. Hello, prostitution. Hello, legal cannabis for personal use.
Hello, prostitution.
Hello, prostitution. But there's a level where you can have sex, but you can't sell sex. And that route, actually, legally is one of the basis of recreational drug use reform. Is that you can have it, but you can't sell it. That was one of the ways around it that they did for years. And as a matter of fact, most of the people who are arrested on drug charges, in a lot of cases, are arrested for trafficking, and that's related to, tax law, ultimately, that you're not paying tax on a product you don't have the right to sell in the first place. It's a very squirrely way of dealing with it, but that's how it's been done. That being said, just because you have guns doesn't mean that you automatically have a license to sell them. You can go buy one from a licensed dealer. You can even become a licensed dealer. And quite frankly, no one can put an egregious step between you and becoming a licensed dealer of guns of almost any sort within limit, as long as you, like anybody else selling something, get a business license and all those kind of things. But you can't just kind of randomly sell stuff like that on any kind of massive scale. And so guns themselves, the gun show loophole and the personal sale loophole, has long been the biggest problem in areas like our issue in Chicago. Chicago can have all the stringent gun rules it can want. Illinois can do everything it can to clamp down on an illegal gun sales and straw purchases and all that kind of stuff. But it won't stop somebody from driving over the border from Wisconsin or Iowa or up from St. Louis with a trunk load of guns. Unless they're pulled over and they can be arrested on trafficking of guns they don't have a receipt for. I mean, there's all kinds of things protecting them, from just saying, what's wrong with driving around with a trunk load of AK-47s, honestly? The NRA will back them up with legal funds. But there's nothing Chicago can do about that. So it has to be done on a national scale. Will it save everyone? No. Will it stop every mass shooting? No. But
what if it saves one?
Yeah.
What
exactly. Or 10,
okay.
quite frankly, because it's more apt to save 10 or 100. It's apt to save a significant percentage of the people who are killed.
Did you ever hear Kyle Kinane's bit on the mass shootings?
No.
Kyle Kinane is one of my favorites, and we're going to go see him next Friday up in Madison.
Excellent.
And and he said he had been trying to work in a bit about random shootings, mass shootings into his act about how you need. And there's the whole idea about like comedy plus tragedy
equals time, but there's
or
never
comedy
enough
plus
time
time
between
equals.
them.
Yeah, there's never enough time to do it. He's like, "Come on, psychos! I'm trying to work out a bit here.
Right.
This is not working."
That's absolutely it. I mean, I even tweeted a while back. I was, for all of you that were saying it's too soon to politicize the mass shooting that just happened yesterday, just pretend I'm politicizing the one that happened 3 shootings ago.
Yeah, or
yeah.
Wait, what happened yesterday? What did I miss? I'm being genuine.
Yeah, nothing. No. I mean, I'm sure there was something at this rate.
Oh,
but
God.
Yeah, no. I was saying at that time when I tweeted that. Let's do this. We got to take a break, but let's go to the break understanding the fact that the unemployment is steady at 5%. The U.S. economy added 292,000 jobs in December, an expected number, by the way, adjusted for seasonal hires at 200,000. I think it was 202,000. And Democrats don't know how to handle the economy, and Republicans are fiscally conservative. That's what we're supposed to take away from, because we're back to Clinton numbers, as if we erased the mistakes of the Bush presidency. We didn't need to have this. This didn't need to happen. The Iraq War, the follow-up to 9/11, the stretching of our military and the death of our soldiers and the spending of our national coffers on an exercise in the sand to depose a dictator that didn't attack us. That and selling our economy to bankers to do whatever they wanted to do with it. That didn't have to happen. And this presidency proves that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to do this again, folks. We don't need to swap every couple of years because, hey, why don't I try this? I've been wearing blue for a month. Why don't I try wearing orange? Like, that's not how you pick a president. We've had a Democrat for a couple of cycles. Let's have a Republican, see what happens. How about let's not? How about we stick with what's working? We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We're going to have our semi-live. We're going to have to act these characters out, Johnny. Semi-live report from inside the Oregon compound.
Oh.
When we return. Yeah. We'll be back. Hey, chat room. Yeah, Lady B, see if you can find some random banjo music to subtly play behind us while we're doing this.
Okay, banjo. Okay, Bon Jovi.
No, not Bon Jovi. Banjo music. I'm going to start a band called Ban Jovi, and it's going to be bluegrass covers of Bon Jovi songs. Banjo.
Okay.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh. No, I'm not drinking soda, yo. Just because I'm drinking it out of a mason jar and there's ice involved. It's coffee. It's iced coffee. Yes, Charles, gather around. Dueling banjo. Hi. Recepta's here. Hi. I have no idea what hour it is where you are. Polish rap. Man, all right. This isn't dead air, Frederick. We're just hanging out during the break. I'm just reading and that kind of stuff. You just get to look at my pretty face. Bad Apples and Chuck
30 seconds.
Oh, as songs. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll be back in just... Here we come. Who's in my dream?
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Okay, so if many of you will remember that a few years ago, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI were starting to look into what are the biggest threats that face actual Americans as far as actual danger, and right-wing militias were right up there. They were actually the biggest concern. Lone wolves and groups acting as sovereign citizens were and continue to open fire on police officers. There was that ambush shooting by that guy who claimed affiliation with ISIS. Who his mother says he was hearing voices and he's lost his mind. Not surprising. Yeah. That guy used a stolen cop's gun to shoot at a police officer in his patrol car 13 times.
How do you steal a cop?
A cop's gun.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. He stole a cop's gun and fired at this police officer 13 times, struck him multiple times, and the cop still got out of the vehicle, chased him, and shot him in the buttocks. Huh. Yep.
Well done, sir.
They took him into custody. That being said, that got a lot of attention. That is, in many ways, people are putting forth, using that news story to campaign off of for the election cycle. They are also using it as a story to limit the amount of refugees we come in, to point a finger at the Muslims and say they're dangerous, man. They can tell it's just a dangerous religion. And the Muslims. Meanwhile, and that was in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, if you'll recall, a few years ago, a right-wing extremist called the police to his own house, and when they knocked on the door, he opened fire on them. Do you remember that?
It wasn't like a suicide by cop thing, or was he just trying to score a few?
He was just trying to score a few.
Oh my god!
And that guy, that incident, not a crazy guy who's been hearing voices, who thinks he's friends with, ISIS is his best buddy, walking into a street and just shooting randomly at a cop, and wonderfully that cop survived. I mean, that
amazing.
Big round of applause for that police officer and his family. Like, the news when you get that your family member has been shot, as a police officer, but he's going to be okay, is this weird mix of frightening and horrifying. I have law enforcement in my family. We know it well. It's just it's such a beautiful thing that he survived and was as valiant.
It's a major plot point at the beginning of Walking Dead.
Sure, right. He's a regular Rick Grimes.
Yeah,
sure.
He's like, do not tell my wife that I got shot.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah. That's the only episode I've ever watched, by the way.
Really?
It's the first episode. Yeah.
Oh, that's odd.
It just didn't suck me in. The second episode seemed a little too soap opera-y.
Yeah, well, the second season is a mess. But we'll talk more about binge watching shows later.
Oh, I've got one for you.
Oh, I don't doubt it. So, anyways, that shooting in Pennsylvania where that guy called the police to his house and opened fire did not change our national conversation on right-wing YouTube militants radicalizing themselves with Christianity and Alex Jones broadcasts and other stuff, and make us redefine how we let people from Mississippi and Alabama move north and buy houses. You know what I mean? It did not. It didn't affect any of. You go, well, dude, if one of these hicks run with a Confederate flag and a collection of curious Nazi memorabilia moves in next to you, see something, say something. We didn't do that. And if you tried, you were seen as anti-patriot or something.
Yeah, arguably, Lemmy should have been ousted from this country with his fondness of Nazi memorabilia.
Sure, absolutely. But then, of course, Glenn Beck did the cover of one of his books. He's dressed as a dictator, in basically a Nazi brown shirt uniform. Regardless, these folks. At one point, so if you don't know, we're in day something or other of the Oregon standoff, where self-described patriots and militiamen have taken hold of and at the time, because they did it over the weekend, vacant fish and wildlife building.
It looks very impressive.
In a bird sanctuary. And decided,
I think I kept my lawnmower in a building about that size when I was a kid.
Right, and basically they have vowed to start like America 2.0 Whitopia, live from a government building that
Amazing.
They plan to stay in a long time because they know, because it was built by the government, that it's sturdy. Anyways, they've picked a good building. They didn't pick, by the way, the house of a compatriot who lives up in the sticks. I built this place myself. Y'all are welcome. Jerry, you might need to hold up the roof. If anybody wants to take a pee, you guys got to go over there. Somebody's got to hold the door open. Otherwise, there's a bow in the ceiling.
The whole thing is like a perpetual barn raising.
Yeah, exactly right. We're always raising the barn.
It
We
is
sleep
never
in
ending.
shifts. We sleep in shifts. One of you holds the roof up. Well, we call it tent poling. But not bad, Jerry. Get back here. Settle down. So, these guys, among other things, have said that they are. Remember, a lot of these guys are veterans of the Bundy standoff, and if you recall, this was a standoff where a millionaire rancher refused to pay the fees to use public grazing land. You know, that land we all own as Americans. I almost said that like George Bush. We all own as Americans.
Yeah.
And he refused to pay his grazing bill, which, by the way, every other rancher who doesn't have a license to graze on that land would gladly pay so that they could make money as ranchers. And
Didn't he learn anything from Wesley Snipes? Seriously,
I don't think he was following that story.
Did you see Expendables 3, by the way?
I did. Of course I did. Yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course I did.
And it's spoiler alert. I'll give everybody a chance to tune away if they don't want to hear any major plot points.
Right.
People are taking off their headphones everywhere.
Does somebody say I'm too old for this S in that movie? All right. That's the spoiler alert.
No, but they rescue Wesley Snipes from some compound, and when they get him on the plane, they're like, "So what do you do? Why are you locked away?" Tax evasion.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a straight up joke about and that's Stallone going, I'm just going to print money globally with this movie, so I'm going to swing for the fences. I'll leave all my subtle stuff for Rocky Balboa, but Expendables, yeah, please. We're going straight back to the 80s. All right.
I was thrilled. I've enjoyed all three.
By the way, Tom in our chat room said that tent polling sounds vaguely sexual. It was not meant to be vaguely sexual. It was meant to be overtly sexual.
Vaguely? Yeah, thank you.
And stay tuned for Star Trek spoilers as well. I wouldn't give
Star Wars, you mean?
No, there's going to be a new Star Trek movie.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like the Star Trek movies.
Wesley Snipes is in it. He and V'ger both go away for tax evasion. Okay, so
wow, you went deep.
I did.
V'ger, good God.
So okay, so not only let's remember these guys. We got to take a break. Think about contemplate this on the tree of woe as we go to break.
One, two, three.
These veterans of the Bundy standoff were people who laid on a bridge with sniper rifles aimed at the heads of FBI, local police, and state police. Sniper rifles. These guys are itching to be cop killers. And now...
Paranoid optimists.
They called for the arrest of the sheriff of the town that they have illegally taken over a building of and his execution. So let's tamp down any pity we might have for their situation, because we're actually, when we come back, it's going to get fairly funny. It's going to be hard not to hypermock.
See, I always thought that, I know we're going to break, but I thought that they liked the local government. They want to arrest the sheriff because he's trying to enforce federal law. Is that it?
No, because he's trying to, it's local law too. They're doing all sorts of stuff you can't allow. And we'll talk about this when we come back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, with 100% more Johnny Million. We'll be back right after this. Again. Let's see. Let's see if I can, like, man. We will also, over the course of this, deal with the Cruz Trump angle, but I just feel like we're going to have too much fun with these lovely. Yeah, Shallon, it's the irony that, well, and by the way, the people who have disavowed this, insofar as, and is the mix okay for you guys? I know I saw something about one of you could only hear me or could only hear Johnny at one point. Yes, Judith, merch is coming. Yeah, Trump going birther on Cruz. We will definitely talk about that. But I just want to make sure that sound is kind of reasonable for you guys. I'm coming back in a second. Okay, thanks, William. If you have it on mono, it might be a little odd because my voice is actually on one side of it just because of how I'm having to rig the audio while I'm on the road. Balance seems off with the audio just dead. Yeah, that's what it is. I'll be in one channel, so just be prepared. Yeah, so there you go. Bring my voice up just a tad.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. So, a little bit of full disclosure. I need to, and Johnny knows this, but when before I moved to Chicago and went to high school, New Trier, the school that should have kicked me out on several occasions but didn't, and I give them great credit for that.
It really was an amazing period of time.
It really was.
Where's Hal? Oh, he's at home.
He'll be back.
Really? He'll be back. I remember visiting you going, really?
Yeah.
You're suspended?
Oh, yeah.
And
Again?
You looked, wink, very miserable, wink.
Yeah.
As you were like
oh, yeah, I was learning my
guitar.
lesson. I was totally learning my lesson. Yeah, it was just all the guitar playing and writing jokes and watching television and riding my bike and going downtown. All that. Anyways, before that, I grew up in Kentucky, and as part of my upbringing, I went to a place called Friendship, Indiana, and I went to what are called rendezvous and Civil War reenactments all over Kentucky and West Virginia and Virginia. I was the water boy in the reenactment of the Battle of West Virginia when I was 8 years old.
Like an Adam Sandler kind of water boy?
No, like a young kid on the field that would bring water to dying soldiers, and I had a very big part to play. I saved the flag. I saved the flag of Kentucky from falling on the ground.
For you.
Yeah, at 8 years old, and I fired a musket at one point, which was actually a flintlock, honestly, and because I don't think anybody had any muskets. And then, and I full well knew also that the water, quote unquote, that I was bringing around to all these dudes that were laying down pretending to be shot in this reenactment was whiskey. So that was kind of the inside joke with it, like bringing over, little flasks.
I think they got me in the leg, son.
Yeah, come here. I need some stoutness, and so 8 years old, I marched in a parade in full buckskins. I have my Herschel House long rifle that I've had my whole life, which is a original Kentucky long rifle. I'm a lifetime member of the NMLRA, the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association, which is what the Founding Fathers had in mind.
And what's weird is that you don't have like a membership card that's laminated. It's really more a parchment.
Yeah, it is. It just rolled on. Hear ye. All these gathered around and ne'er-do-wells, be it known that from this day forth, Hal Sparks will be known
They
as...
let you use the name Hal Sparks? They didn't force you to go legal?
No, it went, they called me Mini Heathine or some nonsense. Of a heathen nature, this boy shall unto this day be able to carry in capacity as a Kentucky colonel and as a member of the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. So that's how I grew up, okay? Understand for a second. So when I'm talking about these guys, I know what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the Oregon militia standoff guys, I grew up surrounded by people like this, okay? And these were the guys that at the Civil War reenactments would drop N-bombs and say other stuff, act like, hey, I'm just acting like the time. And you're like, no, you're not. Buzz off. And there was a slice of those guys that you had to deal with. They were like, the South will rise again. This is practice. And you're like, dude, get out of here. Yeah. And at 8, 9, 10 years old, I was seeing these guys. Okay, so understand that we would go. We slept in teepees and lean-tos at Friendship. We, everybody get whiskeyed up. They played bluegrass till all hours. We threw tomahawks and long knives. I have the weirdest upbringing. This is why I don't talk about my personal life in my act, because it's like a big buck knife as opposed to a little small cutting or paring knife. Your big Crocodile Dundee knife. You'd throw those. So
now that's a knife.
That's right. Now that's a knife. And now that's a knife. So, So I grew up like this. Understand this. And that's why I don't talk about my personal life in my act, because no one would get it. There's no, hey,
right,
who else here grew up in
flung.
buckskins? Nobody. They think it was a joke, and it's not. Okay. So every so often, these folks that we were surrounded by and we would do these things with would have a flight of fancy about the South will rise again, or the importance of, some sort of odd, New South concept. And they would start talking crap in the middle of the night and get a little surly. And then after they had, kind of yelled a bunch of nonsense, would wander into a teepee and go, here, let's wake up these children and play with them. They were the troubled ne'er-do-wells amongst us. That is the entirety of the group that is in Oregon. I grew up surrounded by these idiots. I knew a lot of wonderful people during these times, but we all knew who the people to avoid were. And all of them have packed up and gone to Oregon. Like the two guys from each group where everybody's like, dude, if Daryl comes over here one more time, I swear to God, Daryl and his buddy, they went to Oregon. This is a gathering. It's almost as if all that FEMA camp nonsense that Alex Jones pointed out, the government is going to gather everybody who disagrees up. Obama is starting this. We have the documents.
What are they going to do when Obama leaves office and none of the doomsday stuff ever happened?
Hillary is planning about, they just morph it into the next one.
Even if Trump wins, it'd be like, well, he's
the
friends
Trump
with the
effect.
Clintons.
Yeah, the Obama,
the Trump effect.
The Obama, what was it? The Obama deception will become the Trump deception, will become the whatever. It's an industry. Anyways, so these dudes all go up, and now they're hanging out in a bird sanctuary that they're taking over, and they're going to start their own new white-topia. And they've said that they're going to, they will only leave as free men, and they're going to die there if they have to, and da-de-da. And in this, they actually brought women and children with them, brought families with them. We're going to die here with my 8-year-old. Right, that kind of thing.
We talked about it. He knows.
He understands what freedom means. It rings. That's all he knows. Daddy, does it ring? It rings. Freedom rings. Now go here, play with your iPad. Now
you got to let it ring though.
That I got off my disability check. So all right, stupid government won't get my check here quick enough. That's why I hate the government, because the check doesn't come fast enough. All right. So I'm sure you've been following to some degree some of this, a little bit of this. The reason I had to talk about this and specifically is because I recognized the incident that occurred as things that I've seen happen before in non-militia takeovers, jumpstart a new country of their own stuff. And by the way, if you'll notice, all these guys want to jumpstart a country on federal lands or native lands, and in this case, both. Paiute Indians actually own this land. They deserve this land. If anybody should get it back, it's them.
Even if we call them Injuns.
I don't know why that's even fun.
Look, I can call you an Injun. Look at all this land I'm giving you.
That's
you're
all I
picking
asked.
nits now is what
That's
you're
the
doing.
one thing that was probably in the treaty. All right, here's the thing. You can have all this land as far as I can see. I just want to still call you Injuns because I can't. Every time I say Native American, the M and the R and the C that close together, I start choking to death. So it's not.
Your
I can't
death
do
will
it.
be on me.
My beaties has given me a swollen tongue. So we nicknamed diabetes in my family because we all have it. Beaties are coming to visit. Come
Beaties.
on. The beaties are
It's just
over.
like its initials BD.
I got to go stuck my leg. I'll be right back. Here. Somebody needle me between the toes.
Hey.
Yeah. My fingers are all swollen shut. I look like, oh man, don't even get me started. Okay, so this is the story that really set me off, and I'm going to get to break before I even get to read it if I'm not careful. Okay, rumors and harsh facts arriving from outside the grounds of an Oregon nature preserve appear to be roiling the armed militants who have taken over a federal building in hopes of sparking an armed confrontation with government agents. At least one of the militants, Joe Captaino O'Shaughnessy, and they call him, hey, Captain Mo, get over here, man. Do those ribs up like you do, except we ain't got any ribs. Go get an order of McRibs like you do. Captain Mo O'Shaughnessy left the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge amid drinking claims after arguing with participants over bringing their wives and children to the standoff. And another, Brian Buddha Cavalier, I'm guessing he gets that nickname from his physique, not his, peaceful and introspective nature.
Certainly.
Left the compound after news reported that he had lied about serving in the military. The former compatriot turned opponent claims one of the prominent militants, Blaine Cooper, sucker punched one of his friends, sending the counter-protester to the hospital with a concussion and a serious facial injury. By the way, Blaine Cooper, that's not his real name. He took the last name Cooper after what's his name in Jesse the Body Ventura in I think in
Predator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't got time to bleed. And he probably watches.
That's a fine Jesse the Body Ventura impression, by the way.
Bad. Yeah. Listen. If I was up there with those guys right now, I would tell them a thing or two about the Constitution.
Jesse, is this a secure line? Should you really be? Is this line secure?
When we come back from break, I'm going to describe how these guys could sneak out through a tunnel that connects all federal buildings.
You're going to tell everybody.
We'll be back right after this. I've smoked 50 cigars during the break, and my voice is collapsing as we speak. You can barely notice my Minneapolis accent. We'll be back right after this. It's actually getting better the more I do it. We'll be back. When we come back, we'll get the inside scoop on the Oregon militia brawl that might bring them down. And I'm getting a little Fargo for my own good. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. These guys are amazing. By the way, Cooper was the most reliable member of that team and would never even think to attack one of his own team members. So there you go. I happen to think I do a fantastic Jesse the Body Ventura impersonation. No, that's good. I just love these guys. They're just so pitiful. Thermite paint. This is Jesse the Body Ventura saying all your favorite action movie phrases for just $99.95. And after each one, I say them very patiently and then I spit. I ain't got time to bleed. Got time to duck? Tim Tukirk? Is that his native name? Tim Tukirk? 'Oh man.
30 seconds.
Fantastic. We're back. I can't believe it.
It's a matter of public record that your daddy's sworn up.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. This is Jesse the Body Ventura. You're listening to Hal Sparks, and I think that means that you probably know the secret handshake. So
It's an honor, Jesse.
And I'm a big fan of Convoy. Let me tell you, when I am surfing in Baja, one of my favorite things is I leave my iPad on the beach where it has a better Wi-Fi signal, and then I use Bluetooth headphones duct taped to my skull. I haven't been losing my hair. It just comes off in tufts when I pull the tape off. When I duct tape my Bluetooth headphones to my head.
Yeah,
So
this is all coming together.
That's
I get
how
it
that
now.
works. So you know, in case you're going to try it, which I don't recommend.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, but these guys, yeah. So one of them named themselves.
One caller
after
has actually dropped, by the way. They're just like, oh my God, F this ass.
I can't even.
There's
Right.
no way they're ever going to
top this. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know that that's what they were thinking when they hung up.
No.
But okay.
This is a waste of time. All right. So we're not as serious about it as they want us to be. All right. So a former compatriot turned opponent claims one of the prominent militants, Blaine Cooper, sucker punched one of his friends, sending the counter-protester to the hospital with a concussion and serious facial injuries. Lewis Arthur, who describes himself as an anti-violence patriot, who I think they probably refer to as a log cabin patriot, if you know what I mean, and head of the Veterans on Patrol activist group. Veterans on Patrol activist group. Man, that's a lot of syllables.
VOPA.
It just takes the oomph out of the whole thing. VOPAG. Veterans on Patrol activist group.
What are you, some kind? I'll make sure one of the VOPAGs, a bleeding heart VOPAG.
Right. VOPAGs unite. Said he arrived Wednesday with 3 other men to remove a radicalized and suicidal veteran who suffers from PTSD and has a tendency towards violence when he's placed under stress. Luckily, there's none of that up there. We came up here to de-escalate the situation and to convince someone that having the federal government killing you is not the way to make you a martyr. And the majority of the patriots are pounding on their keyboards. They're not going to rise up, Arthur said in a video post on Thursday evening on Facebook. Just like the founding fathers. Arthur said the 36-year-old Cooper, a former friend, attacked a member of his three-man crew during an argument over the mission to remove women, children, and Ryan Payne, a U.S. Army veteran who has bragged about setting up sniper teams to target federal agents during the 2014 standoff at Bundy Ranch. Payne made it very clear that he wanted the federal government to go and take him out, and I had to come up here because I know that's what he wants. However, Cooper and the other militants said Arthur, who set up a camp across the road from the nature preserve, initiated the fight by assaulting a guard and trying to enter the compound. John Ritzheimer, Jingleheimer Smith.
Jingleheimer, you beat me.
The Arizona militiaman known for organizing anti-Muslim rallies disputed that Payne hoped to become a martyr to the Patriot cause and said Arthur was merely seeking a couple of seconds of fame. John Hildinger, I'm not kidding. John
damn near killed her.
John the Dinger Hildinger, who was arrested on Maryland firearm charges on his way to the anti-Obama Operation American Spring rally in 2013, is well known in the Patriot movement, said he'd been receiving damaging information about Cooper, Payne, and Brian Buddha Cavalier, all of whom he described as loose cannons because he only uses terms to describe people based on 80s cop movies from multiple sources. It's I think somebody Ann in our chat room is saying Ritzheimer is the guy who was crying in his truck before leaving his wife to take care of their kid to go up here and drink Capri Sun with his buddies. There's a great picture of him just sucking on a Capri Sun, looking about as tough as they come. The 57-year-old Texan, who was not in the Oregon standoffs, said in a pair of videos that he supported the cause, but he disagreed with their strategy and the leaders as the militants had chosen. He said Cavalier was a mean effer. With multiple drunk driving convictions, and he said the Arizona tattoo artist had insinuated himself into the Bundy family and scared off anyone who tried to get close to them. He never served in the military, and you said you did, Hildinger said. When you were called on it, you said, I'm sorry they said that, and then someone stood up and said, oh, no, sir, we're accusing you of stolen valor, and you said, you got your job to do, and I got mine. Lying is not a job, sir. You are squashed. I'm so glad I don't know you. This is,
wow.
I have to say, I initially when all this went down, I, like many others, was on Twitter going, if these people were black or Muslim or both or Hispanic or even Native, the place would be firebombed by now. They would have been, the feds would have rolled in and opened fire. And I never advocated that because I didn't advocate it for anybody. And I think another Ruby Ridge or Waco is not what we need. We never needed those. They could have been handled a lot better. That being said, I do think we should send in drones. And I don't mean the kind that shoot. I mean the kind with cameras, because I think this is the new Housewives of Orange County. This is the show. This will flatline Duck Dynasty. This is Duck Dynasty meets 12 angry men who aren't sure what they're angry about. I want this filmed. I want somebody, and there's got to be security cameras in this facility, and even if it's just like owl cam, I want them to turn them on.
Like a Harry Potter thing?
Yeah. No. Like when they put an owl's nest on YouTube and you can just watch it.
See, that's the whole Kentucky owl thing. I knew somebody else from Kentucky, but every time they said owl, I thought they were talking about Al, and now you're saying Al, and I thought you were saying
try
owl.
being named Hal.
I don't get it.
Now you know why I left the state. By the way, Driftglass in our chat room, it wants to call it Duh Dynasty. Which or Derp Dynasty is better. He said Derp Dynasty. I like that one.
DERP, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and Shayla in our chat room says We Live in Public meets Duck Dynasty, which is I think a great mix of the two. I just want to get to the Brokeback Mountain days where where there's just
I can't quit you.
Yeah, it's been months. Their wife and family have moved on, probably remarried, left them up there. We've just sent in cameras and we're just watching this play out. the viewership and the ads for this would pay for the National Wildlife Service nationwide for the next 10 years. I just think it would be genius, and I just want them, eventually settling into the idea that they just would prefer each other's company to anyone else, and they're just sharing sleeping bags. And and have one of those like, we've run out of supplies. No, don't worry. You want a Baby Ruth? That ain't a Baby Ruth. You know what I mean? Where they're just left.
Those are pillows.
But the probably the best moment from this. And by the way, when we come back, we're going to talk about Ted Cruz and Donald Trump edging for Iowa. It looks like Cruz is taking the lead in Iowa in a significant sense and is actually going to do it. And the gun issue, as it pertains to Hillary and Bernie Sanders. Hillary has seen what is, she's seen as a weakness in his candidacy, and she is exploiting it fully. And it's a legitimate difference in policy and a call on a vote. It's not somebody, it's not Trump going, he's weak, he's just small and weak and stupid and
he's just a
weak and
loser.
dumb.
You can tell by looking at him. He's a loser.
Right. So when we come back, we'll talk a bit about that or whatever. But my favorite part about this whole thing is that apparently, for all of you that are supportive of this cause, one of the big, I guess, fights between them is that they took the donations. One of them took the donations, left, is staying at a motel, and went on a drinking binge. He's drinking the donations for food for the stand-up. We need to get them
how
help.
much it was?
I think it was $47.22, and one of those EBT cards. We'll be back right after this. More of the Housemarks Radio program, Mega Worldwide with Johnny Million, and we'll get to real politics after this. But I want you to know that this has been going on. This has been going on uninterrupted for over a week now, I believe. And these lovely folks don't show any sign of stopping. We'll be back. It's the Housemarks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll be back after this. Turn on the air conditioner. That's a good one, Julie. I like that one. If this stuff's not going to happen 10 years from now because everything's going to be all automated. Hee-haw 2.0. Salud! Yeah, I spent all the donation money on liquor. Yeah, and it's fascinating to me. This is the here's. No, that's the one where they're gonna. This is the picture, by the way, of who's he, what's it, drinking the. Nobody can look cool, in his defense, no one can look cool drinking a Capri Sun. Nobody. Yeah. Broke, unemployed, and on disability. Here's how the Oregon militants can afford to play Patriot games. That's the article, but the picture is just beautiful. Kind of magic. William, interestingly enough, he might be Rand is close to being kicked to the curb. He's not out of the race, but I have not watched the video yet because it did not come up on there. So. I'll see if I can find it again. Daddy swore knows. That's awesome. There's a ton of of spoof ones. Which one of them did you want me to watch in particular?
An oath to the Kiss Army.
Your daddy swore an oath. He swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
Your daddy swore an oath. An oath to the naturalist and later expressionist playwright August Strindberg. Your daddy swore an oath to protect the rigors of English grammar against commenters on YouTube and Facebook alike. Daddy took an oath.
Oh, Tim Tukirk. Yeah.
An oath to the Kiss Army.
Bless you, Tim Tukirk. I'm following Tim Tukirk from now on.
The King of the North. To motivation. To ammonia, multi-symptom.
Daddy swore an oath. An oath to finally finish Jules Verne's Mysterious Island.
30 seconds.
Johnny, have you watched the Daddy Swore an Oath videos? Oh, boy.
He said no.
Hashtag Daddy Swore an Oath. They're making fun of one of the Oregon one of the Oregon militia guys who was, why he was leaving his wife and kid behind. And this guy, Tim Tukirk, mocked him going, Daddy swore an oath to the Kiss Army.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
I've just been turned on by our wonderful chat room, by the way, on YouTube. Ann in there turned me on to the Daddy Swore an Oath hashtag, where they are soundly mocking one of the militiamen's statements before he ran off, and left his wife and kid behind to go play snow soldier in a wildlife refuge in Oregon, in a town that doesn't want him, in support of people who want him to leave. And Tim Tukirk, bless his heart, one of the people who's mocking him, they're all, declaring their oath to something or other. And in this case, he chose the Kiss Army, and we love him for that. So there we go.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, at Tim Tukirk, good man. So that being said, I'm sure, Johnny, you've been following to some degree the ongoing Republican kind of wheedle down that is passing for a primary season. There is some talk about next week's Democratic debate, which is a week from today. being the elimination of Martin O'Malley being a possibility. And Rachel Maddow spoke quite well on the fact that, technically speaking, he's in as of now. He would have to dip next week for that to happen. And I think in many ways her bringing it up might actually shore up his support in certain areas, at least to get him in and continue that conversation. Because I think we are helped by a three-way conversation, even if it's not technically a three-way fight at this point.
Right.
Obviously, Biden went so far as to say we got two good candidates. I regret not running, but we've got two good candidates. I don't think he meant, Hillary and Martin. I don't think he meant Bernie and Martin. I don't think he meant Hillary and Bernie. I think he meant Hillary and Bernie. Like, he just kind of forgot about Martin O'Malley in this, honestly, and thought.
Did you hear about Martin O'Malley's rally where one person showed up at the coffee shop?
No.
Yeah, I was a little sad. But he hung out with the guy.
He rallied the troops. The troop.
He did.
The person. The guy.
And I don't think, this is genuine, I don't think that guy could commit to voting for him at the end of that rally.
Of course not. Yeah, of course not. He's just going to commit to going, you'll make a lovely vice president, and I'm glad I got here. That's as far as his commitment
Pretty
will go.
much.
And it legitimately. That being said, if you, things supposedly heated up between, Trump and Cruz, where they've had kid gloves for quite some time. And so much so, by the way, Trump was a classic birther. Let's understand that as a candidate, before he was even running,
we laughed in his face for a long time.
He was the birther of note in public record, essentially. He was the guy who was showing up on Fox News talking about how the president is not a real citizen, all this stuff, before he apparently had any inkling that he was going to be to actually run for president. And it just so happens that his main opponent in Iowa and in the current Republican primary, Ted Cruz, was born in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been all sorts of legalistic wiggle room about what it means to be born as a natural born citizen on American territory. I think it was Barry Goldwater was born in Arizona before it was the Arizona territories. It wasn't officially part of the United States yet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
that's tremendous.
So there was a little bit of birtherism around him. Never became settled law, but nobody seemed to have a problem ultimately with it. And then, of course, John McCain was born on technically American territory in Panama, I guess, on a military base. That idea that he was he was not born in the country, and so they were trying to bat that back in his direction around the Obama, the idea that somehow that leveled the playing field as far as the debate about being born here. Ultimately, I think if your parents are American, I don't care where you're born. I mean, I think that's a little silly. I think most people do, which is why it never really rises to the issue of really anybody but the crazy cat ladies and the direct political opponent bringing it up. Right. These are your two kind of things. And arguably, I think Donald Trump is both. He's got the head of a crazy cat lady on the body of a direct political opponent. There's a suit there. Anyways, so Ted Cruz was born in Canada. Turns out, once Trump floated this idea, as it's going to be a big problem, as if I'm not bringing this up. He's using what I would say the Fox News.
What if somebody?
Yeah, some people say idea.
Yeah.
As a weapon.
It's been reported.
It's been reported, and this is going to be tough. He's going to have to answer these questions. I don't have a problem with it. But some people are, and if they're in the South...
That is so Trump. This is going to be difficult for him, I got to tell you.
I got
news for you.
I wish him well, but his criminal record that you don't know about yet is going to be an issue for him. And, oh, yeah. So Cruz was born in Canada, and it turned out after his, and his mother is an American citizen. His father was escaped Castro's Cuba, bless his heart, and they ended up in Canada somehow, punting around North America, trying to find a place to land. And by the way, when I was in Canada shooting Queer as Folk, people went to Cuba all the time. It was sort of a semi-unsanctioned thing, and you could get in a little trouble, but nobody really, it was like, I don't know what a little trouble is when you're flying in and out of there, but they would just kind of go vacation as Canadians in Cuba occasionally. It was really, and as an American, it was like, oh yeah, if you wanted to, you could catch a flight. You just ask them not to stamp your passport because you can get in trouble for the stamp. Yeah, so Canada's always had, obviously a softer, cozier, relationship with the Cuban people. I wouldn't say that they, violated any kind of, sanctions, but certainly the people, as far as tourism goes, would go back and forth. So it's not surprising that that's where his mom and his dad met and had a child was in Canada. That's not surprising at all. Now, it turns out both of his parents were on Canadian voter rolls. That came out this week. And so he had to produce his mother's birth certificate, his mom's birth certificate, not his, to prove this. Cruz had to do this to prove that he was actually that she was an American citizen.
Wow.
Right. And Alan Grayson, who we love dearly and who's a wild man, and the Michael Moore
that name
Congress.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He vowed to file a lawsuit challenging Cruz's eligibility if he wins the nomination. Grayson would try to argue that both parents of Cruz, who was born in Canada to an American mother and a Cuban father, had to be U.S. citizens for him to be considered a natural-born citizen under the Constitution. Grayson also has questions about the U.S. birth of Cruz's mother. The Obama birthers are loons, Grayson said, telling U.S. News and World Report. But there's a very good legal argument that Ted Cruz is not qualified to be president. Like Cruz foe John McCain, the 2008 Republican nominee, said Cruz's eligibility is a legitimate question. Democratic leaders have been happy to see Cruz twist in the wind. I do think there's a distinction between John McCain being born to a family serving our country in Panama and someone born in another country, said Nancy Pelosi. Now, I think this is much ado about nothing, but I do think it's the poking at the soft underbelly of the Cruz campaign by the Trump organization, which will to tamp down that 3 to 8 point lead that varies every so often. And to remind them that and again, these are people who have the Manchurian Candidate on the mind. They think Obama's a Muslim infiltrator. Who if you talk to them long enough, you'll well, there's a chance that Castro's Cuba was an enemy of the United States during the Cold War, and his father escaped there fairly easily and was able to go to Canada. I mean, the idea that that they're positioning a son to be a senator and control U.S. policy in those areas, and that's a little scary. Like, there are people who would go, you know what, you're right, I'm going to Oregon. So in this case, this is Trump having his cake and eating it too, which he does quite often, both literally. Bring me more cake. And the idea that he is, this is his way of chipping away at Ted Cruz's lead. Which, by the way, when we come back, I'm torn. I'm torn between Trump and Cruz as to who I want to win the nomination for Republican, because they're both different kinds of hilarious. Both as a comedian professionally. I think Trump is the low-hanging fruit. I think it's too easy. Mm-hmm. And I think I have friends who could do a really good Cruz impersonation and make a living off of it for the cycle of the election. He's never going to be president. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about this policy difference between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on guns.
It's huge.
It's huge, and there's a value to it that I think is wonderful. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, I think in many ways, Trump is just going to try to narrow that window. He'll start crap talking Iowa because once after Iowa's done, you don't need their votes. That's the irony of the Iowa caucuses, is that, and Trump will use that. He doesn't need to win Iowa on a presidential level. Nobody does, to actually get the presidency. So it's a way he can use that. You guys are smarter than Iowa. They're losers. They don't have anything. They won't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. Yike. Oh, yeah. Take some of the pain out of it, Seattle. Susie Q. Hmm.
30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So the contentious point is that at one point, Bernie Sanders, as an independent senator from Vermont, voted against the Brady bill, background checks and waiting periods. This is an area where Hillary Clinton has attempted to position herself to the left of Bernie Sanders. Now, we're talking about guns in this country. This is the issue that Hillary Clinton is staking out as a way to win Democratic voters. First of all, let's just say that is hugely healthy for both the Democratic Party and the nation as a whole. That you've got two Democrats who are going to elbow each other left on guns during a presidential election cycle, not a local election, not a part of Washington State that separates itself from the rest of Washington State in wanting to tighten gun restrictions and the like. Nationally, this is nothing short of a beautiful thing. This is as important as Sanders' attacks on Clinton, making her, and many others actually, quite frankly, including Obama, making her admit regretting her Iraq vote and saying she wouldn't do it again and that she's learned from it.
That was giant.
Yeah, it was huge, and it's important that they do that. I don't automatically, because of a vote that somebody does, including what Senator Sanders voted for. Voting against the Brady bill would not be a non-starter for me if he's gone. My position
he's grown.
Yeah, my position has evolved. We're in a different situation than we were then. All that kind of stuff. I'm fine with that. My issue is he hasn't really done it yet. it's akin to his All Lives Matter response to Black Lives Matter. It took a while for him to come back around to, let's be very distinct about Black Lives Matter. Because anybody who says all lives matter in the context of Black Lives Matter is tone deaf and doesn't understand what the point is. Black Lives Matter is said because in the perception that all lives matter, black people are being left out. Under the assumption that all lives matter, there are a bunch of people, specifically because of their skin color, who are dying all the time at the hands of police officers and other sources, quite frankly, that aren't getting the attention, care that they like. I mean, you can go, you don't even have to stick with police shootings. You could look at missing and abducted children. Black children who are missing and abducted have historically gotten less attention and therefore less resources around getting them back than white kids. Saying all lives matter in that context is tone deaf and stupid. Saying that all lives matter and right now black people are not being treated by that standard is a longer and wider way of saying Black Lives Matter. Just say it. Get over it. Jump to it. And so Sanders kind of pitching back and forth in the wind about it didn't excite me about that. And I was very impressed with Hillary about that. And like I said, I like her. I lean her direction. But I love Bernie Sanders, and we need him in this race. And if he were to be the nominee and he did manage to do this, I'd support him in a heartbeat. I have no problem with either of them. Will either of them be perfect on these issues? No. Do I wish he was further to the left on guns than Vermont supposedly allows him to be?
Right.
Yes. Do I wish Hillary Clinton had never voted for the Iraq War? Absolutely. Am I proud of the Democrats that we have running compared especially to the Republican field? Of course. Of course. Because they both care about actually governing the country. But understand what this means. There's a lot of, there was a lot of, the server issue. Remember the server issue where not Hillary's emails and how magnanimous, quite frankly, that Bernie was about it, but the fact that he had a few people in, volunteers working, or I guess actually a paid employee in this case, the one that was fired, and 5 others who had gotten access through a firewall that was down into the voter records and the targeting material and the strategy material of Hillary Clinton's campaign and downloaded it, kept it, and eventually returned it. But they were denied access to the, their database and any files on that thing till it could be proved that they wouldn't exploit or use those, or they would give back what they had had. Completely reasonable, much ado about nothing, I believe. Everybody was calling for Debbie Wasserman Schultz's head after that. Mainly people who were just super pro-Bernie and have no sympathy or idea about Hillary Clinton and just angry at some sort of establishment concept. The equivalent of Tea Partiers in our group, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, we could go down the rabbit hole about this particular issue, about Sanders' record on guns, which I'm not a fan of. And there's been much writing over the years about his support for guns. 91, Sanders voted against a version that mandated a 7-day waiting period for background checks. Bill passed the House anyways. Senate decreased the waiting, so it was a losing vote. They knew it was going to be a losing vote. Voted for it anyways, which is effectively a vote with NRA and manufacturers in that regard as far as backers go. You only do that when you're showing your backers or your voters that believe that way, that I'll stand with guns even if it's going down. I'll go, that idea, which is a very odd fight to pick around just 7-day waiting periods, because it was, that's effectively becoming nationwide. After some back and forth, a version of the bill resurfaced that had reinstated the 5-day waiting period. November 93, Sanders voted against that version, but for an amendment imposing an instant background check instead. The problem was, it sounds good, but there was no technology available to do the instant background checks. There was no way you could actually make it happen. So it's one of those kind of, almost like, think of it as a provision of the Affordable Care Act that's impossible to maintain, that they would try to put in as a poison pill.
Mm-hmm.
to basically nullify a section of it. Asking for immediate background checks, in the technology available in 1993 was not going to happen. There was no database. And by the way, this was still under the moratorium of being able to even look at gun violence, which, is one of the other things, too, that the president's executive order, which I was very happy to know, is going to allow, push for the allowance of the CDC and the NIH to be able to start gathering data, and the FBI on gun deaths, so we can start getting a picture of how you can mitigate the number of them that happen. Everybody thinks this is how they can round up gun owners and put them in a FEMA camp, but the reality is, if you have a gun and it misfires, there was a big story about how police officers in I believe it was in Los Angeles even they were given a new gun as part of their. And it might not have been Los Angeles, I'm maybe talking out of school, but an entire department had been given a new gun, issued a new gun, and it was faulty. And so there were a bunch of accidental shootings where police, in unclipping, in a circumstance, had shot themselves. And that the gun itself was too easy to fire. It had a hair trigger. And they hadn't received any training about it. They hadn't dealt with any of that. And a lot of these cops were in danger. Now that would be something that would be gathered as data, lined up with all the other people who had bought that gun as a private citizen, and say, okay, gun manufacturers, this is the pull strength you should need to pull the trigger on something. Anything lighter is too easy for an accident to happen. We can study these things, and since you can't sue a gun manufacturer for any of these situations, and most people are too macho to do it anyways, they blame themselves if it happens. The gun manufacturers have been able to create faulty products that would, have nearly, if you look at what's happened with Volkswagen, it's almost destroying their brand. But none of the gun manufacturers ever face anything like that. Gathering that data would be important, whatever. That technology is barely available. It's just starting to be available now to be able to get that over the last maybe 6 years. Meanwhile, it certainly didn't exist in 1993. So this is a legit point between the two of them. Point of argument, a genuine belief system. And I'm glad there's a debate happening. And you know what's going to happen? Because Bernie Sanders is a good human being. This is going to push him left on the concept of guns. Mm-hmm. Just like having to have a mea culpa about her vote about Iraq and other issues has pushed Hillary Clinton left. Her ties to Wall Street have pushed her left in what she's had to offer as far as policy decisions. This is good. Mm-hmm. Normally, this is the situation where they're fighting for elbowing a little closer to center, even when it comes to the Democratic primary. They never go this far left. And the idea that we've got two candidates who are going to argue about who's tougher on guns is incredibly healthy. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Do we have calls? Should we take some calls on the other side?
Yeah, we got 6 calls.
Excellent. Wow, I had no idea. Let me know sooner. I'll just jabber.
Well,
Any
you
of
never
them from
said
the Oregon
phone
compound
number or anything, so I thought that you were just rolling.
Yeah, no. We'll be back right after this with some of your calls, 773-763-9278. Hope none of them are from Oregon. Actually, I hope all of them are from Oregon. We'll be back. YouTube, that's exactly right. I just effing shot myself. That guy was probably, honestly, dealing with a faulty gun. That dude probably had a faulty weapon. And there's no way that guy's going to sue that gun manufacturer or even be able to test it and go, yeah, the pounds per square inch on this particular trigger was, an 1/8 degree lighter. Yay! I hope you did win, Judith. I really do. Well, Julie, she can afford to. That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because here's a list. This is a list of Bernie's votes on guns over the years, and specifically, the Gun Show Background Check Act, mandatory gun show background act. He voted against it.
$30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You okay? You need a glass of water?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So all of our callers, if you guys can keep it high and tight.
Hang on for another 30 minutes.
Yeah, right. Just you pipe
You
in.
know that Steve has been on for 1 hour and 28 minutes. He called before your intro played.
Yeah, that.
So it's obviously a reaction to something you said.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, I've turned it. Yeah, let's take Steve then. Hey, Steve, go ahead.
Well, in fairness to me, there was no doubt as to the topic for today's discussion, so it was pretty easy to.
It's true
call
to
it
get
and
fair enough.
And so, I mean, the timing on this stuff is great, and it's great material, especially for someone like yourself, given that you're a comedian. And I'm thoroughly convinced that you've got all of these people who are part of the establishment in the Republican Party who are scratching their heads and saying, "Oh my God, these nutcases had to come out of the woodwork this week."
Right.
We've already we can't actually disavow them because they're our base. But on the other hand, look, they're nuts. So, and I'm convinced that, there's a reason why this happened when it happened. I mean, it couldn't have happened before the holidays. I mean, Walmart's not about to give these people that much time off during the holidays, so it has to take place after that.
Sure.
And so exactly, what happens here is that, you get these people who, this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy they're hoping is going to happen because for decades now, people like Alex Jones have made millions of dollars selling these morons on this, the doomsday prophecy nonsense that the government is coming, whether it's the UN, the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, whatever conspiracy nutcase, top 20 families in the world led by the Rothschilds are wanting your guns and want to stick you in FEMA camps. So failure for this to happen after years of predicting that it's going to happen, which is what Alex Jones has been doing for decades, will lead people invariably to try and fulfill that prophecy themselves. Well, you know what? Maybe we need to push it along. Maybe we need to kind of make it happen.
Welcome to ISIS. That's exactly what's going on. If you read any of the apocalyptic, books that have been written about ISIS, is that these guys are trying to jumpstart their Messiah coming. There was a group of evangelical Christians that got tired of waiting for for Jesus to come back. So they thought they'd give him a hand by trying to buy a nuclear weapon. They were never successful, and plant it under the temple on the mount and blow it up.
I like where they're coming from.
I love the fact that that how delusional they must be, given that after all of this has happened, people are not showing up in any kind of numbers. In fact, the local community is asking them to leave. We'd like to send our kids back to school.
Yeah, they're not happy about it. We want people with the semi-automatics.
We're not happy about you nutcases being around here and possibly a shootout while our kids are trying to get to soccer practice.
Right.
So, so they're disillusioned that, wow, these salt-of-the-earth people in these small communities, we expect people in Chicago and New York are going to hate us, but why would these people hate us? Oh, I don't know, maybe because
they want to get on with their lives.
Jones and the rest of you, Alex Jones and the rest of you don't represent, 49% of the American people. You represent 0.1% of the American people.
Right, and
so,
and you can't even make that 0.1% can't even get their act together. They're knocking the crap out of each other, taking the donations and going on drinking binges. They're asking for donations off the internet, and then surprised when organizations are sending them glitter bombs to open up. In the facility.
I consider sending them a case of Mountain Dew because I think that goes hand in hand with who they are.
There's a drink out called Just Chill. It's it's like meant to be kind of a melatonin-ish kind of a beverage that helps you wind down. Like for people who used to wind down with a beer and they they don't want to do that anymore. It's literally called.
And the last point I'm making, and I think the government is handling this masterfully. I mean, this attitude of, they've secured a government facility. Really? We haven't been there in years. Could you ask them to clean it up while they're there? We really don't care. It's masterful because they're going to wait these people out sooner or later. These idiots are going to run out of money, have to go home. Alex Jones will be a few $1 million wealthier, but the rest of these people will go home to nothing, which is where they started with. And I love that whole notion that, we're going to return this to the people to whom it originally belonged, Native American. No. Let's be clear. God created the world 6,000 years ago, and then some 200 plus years ago, in his second act of creation, he created the American Constitution for white people, and all the land that we seized as a result of that is
ours to exploit as we want. And by the way, what they mean by freeing the land is allowing their rancher buddies to use it without paying for it until it's burned out, which is why these wildlife preserves have been set up in the first place.
I'd love to, and I'd love to ask, so if we take it back for the people, I'm among the people. It's federal land, meaning it belongs to all of us.
Yep.
What check am I going to be getting, and who's going to be paying me? I have no intention of utilizing my land, or do I have a right to come out there and set up a little shop and sell souvenirs? Because if you're taking it back in my name, I assume part of it's mine. Is that what you're going to allow me to do? I'd like to hear the explanation.
I want to show up there. We should just show up there with a bunch of cattle. Just say like, hey, where should they start eating everything that's around here? What do you think? I'm actually trying to raise venison, so I'm going to release about 20,000 deer into the area, and we're gonna have a hunting zone, guys. You can't hunt them because I need them. They're my deer. God gave them to me, and so
this is my deer here. See.
Yeah.
This is my deer.
Don't do what the Hammonds did, which is kill a bunch of them illegally and then set fire to the ground to cover it and then get busted for arson because it's spread 130 acres. And not warn, by the way, the campers that they knew were on that land that fire was coming. Also, don't worry that I think the kid was 11 years old that was helping you set the fire, had to shelter in a creek until the fire passed, because you'd sent him off to help you set a fire to cover your poaching, which is how all this nonsense started in the first place. So I appreciate the call. Let's grab another caller.
Let's go Paul, because he's been waiting for 1 hour and 11 minutes. Mm-hmm. Paul, we love you.
Put me in line for next week so I can get on before Steve.
Good idea. I'll tell you what the topic is. I'll tweet it out after the show. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I loved your Civil War reenactment stories, Hal. I've always wanted to see a multiple real-life, authentic reenactments of Pickett's charge, like, next group, take 137, next group, take 138,
Prap, and everybody falls down. Next.
Yeah, right. So,
Prep.
for real.
Next. Prep. Next. You guys having fun?
Okay,
oh,
so-
no, I'm real tired. I don't want to do it a third time. I twisted my ankle falling down the 15th time.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I think the nation in some respect has been gripped by a kind of junior high school mentality, and thus the Trump effect.
Yep.
But these guys in Oregon, I don't think they've thought this through, that as cattle ranchers, and they, from what I understand, grazing their cattle for, $3 per head per month. Now, I was thinking about that. 10 cents a day to feed an animal that weighs 6 times more than a human. You can't feed your cat for 10 cents a day.
No.
I mean, it's kind of like, come on. But anyway, the reason I say it's junior high school mentality is because they think that this mindset that if I just do this one act, the ever-standing result shall be forever that, everything will go my way.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. If the federal land in Oregon were to revert to state land, they would be out of the cattle business. Because once federal land, which is not taxed, becomes state land, the state has to collect some revenue on it, which means that whoever owns the land will have to pay taxes on it, which is what they don't want to do. And they're not going to, the state of Oregon or any state is not going to waste their valuable land on something as stupid as cattle grazing. They're going to sell it to developers, and under a recent Supreme Court decision that the right-wingers love to cite, which was the Kelo versus New London, Connecticut case, where in 2005 the court ruled that, the state can just take over private land and reconvert it to better economic viability.
Yeah.
So even if these ranchers owned the land themselves and paid dirt cheap taxes on it, it could still be they would be out of the cattle business, period.
No question.
So what they're arguing for is to put themselves out of business.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is there is also no concept on a legal stance of the slippery slope involved in what they're asking for. Because the minute you ask for that, we're a nation of poorly administered yet honestly legally equality. And so if you're going to allow these guys to freely graze on any land they see fit, you're also going to have to let anybody who wants to to mine for uranium or gather mercury or toluene or any of these other toxic chemicals that they want to use in chemical processing on that same land, by the way, where it does exist, to dig up all they want, poisoning your cattle, poisoning the rivers and streams, giving your family cancer. Notice that they took over a nice piece of federally protected land in Oregon. They did not take over, by the way, a lot of unused rural or urban areas in Michigan, like Flint, for example, where that's exactly what has happened. A chemical company and the state have collaborated to allow people to toxify the water over time because business is more important than human beings and more important than the country as a whole. And so you've got a bunch of kids who are being poisoned with lead. That's the natural step from what they're asking for.
Yep.
And just the fact that, as I said, junior high school mentality, they don't think that, I have to wind it up here, that there are competing interests for what they would say, and of course the tribes are saying, hey, wait, if this land's going back to anybody, it's going back to us.
Right.
But the stupid white guy mentality, which is when this land becomes out of federal hands, it's going to be mine.
Right.
Because it should be. But no, there are competing interests. I mean, there are probably 1,000 competing interests that if they actually stepped up to the plate and said, no, guys, this isn't yours.
And
there
the
are
legal
all
route
kinds
that
of competing interests that
the legal
that
route that, by the
them.
way, foreign interests could also buy into it. Foreign interests could buy up that land as easily thanks to their compatriots in the Republican Party and the bills they passed in the 90s. So you're absolutely right. There's this idea that somehow they're going to take it and keep it is absurd. And most of them can't keep a job if you read the articles. So the idea that they're going to keep a piece of land that other people might also want is silly. At least I'll die a free man. Yes, you will. Quickly.
Thanks, Al.
And cheers. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll take a couple more calls who've been waiting. Yep. And
that was abrupt.
Well,
I was just getting to like him.
He was trying to help us. He was trying to help us. He was trying to get we could get to other people, and that's why
he's in and out. That Paul.
All right.
so to speak.
We'll be back right after this. More of your calls and a little bit of a happy ending. We'll put that in there. Although we kind of already got it, which is the steady unemployment at 5% and like job growth that that exceeds predictions by almost a third. We'll be back. I'm back. All right. Ew. Can't have a Bill Cosby happy ending. Nobody'd be awake for it. Ew. Is that... Huh? Mitchell, I see where you're going, but the reality is the Waco went on as long as it did because they had women and children and the like, and it was a religious compound. There was a lot more murky stuff about this. These guys, they can just kind of let dangle. And I think they learned from Waco. And arguably, you don't have to actually do the shoot and stand off
30 seconds.
while it's happening. They can just pump it up in the news. The 24-hour news cycle being what it is a lot. They're more adept these days. All right. Yeah. Well, Integral Destiny, arguably, that's what I would call the Jim DeMint argument. That, Jesus, is going to show up and he cleans the air through magic and love. And so why bother trying not to pollute?
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back. Let's take some more calls since I neglected them so furiously.
I aided you in that neglect. Let's go to... we like David in Sacramento. Sorry, we like all you other people too, but
yeah,
we like David.
Hey, David, welcome.
Hey, Hal. Well, welcome. Hey, Hal.
Yeah.
Hey, so anyway, here's the thing. I think we give these idiots, these Republicans, too much credit.
Okay.
I just think that they're just going on tour, selling their stupid book. They don't care about going to be president. They're just basically selling books, making millions of dollars for Amazon, selling their stupid book and going on tour. It's just I'm just getting sick and tired of them because they think that, like when it comes down to the wire, they think it's Donald Trump and Hillary, it's going to be a close race. And look at them. They're really head to head. They said the same damn thing with John McCain and Obama kicked his ass on John McCain, and then Obama kicked his butt, for Mitt Romney. It wasn't close, people. People are not that stupid. If you want to be a dumb redneck that wants to, with no IQ, and vote for these idiots and Republican, go ahead. But you don't stand a chance to take California. You don't stand a chance to take Oregon.
Nope.
You can have all these little small collegiate, like 10s and 20s over there, but 55 in California, you have to take California. And you're sure in hell not going to take California. And I'll tell you right now, it's a liberal state. And these people think that, they're going to go ahead. I'm going to tell you right now, it won't be close. It's never going to be close. Nobody likes the Republican. They have issues against women, blacks, They have gun issues, healthcare issues against gays. Who wants any of that crap in the White House? I sure in hell don't,
Right.
and nobody will either.
Well, that's it.
There you go.
You're absolutely right, and I appreciate the call. I mean, it's direct, but that's the reality. That's what he's saying is true on a national.
He was
scale.
just being like the Trump of the
left
of the left wing.
Nobody's interested. These people are boring. We don't like them. Nobody likes them. Yeah,
They're losers.
They're high energy but low intellect. And he's right. The Republican Party is increasingly having to deal with the fact that they are not a national party in that regard. They are a regional party aimed at increasingly the Oregon standoff crowd. I mean, as they narrow towards a lot of people at Ted Cruz rallies are confused and disappointed that the world hasn't ended yet through rapture. They literally, almost everyone at one of his rallies has had a moment of, I swear to God, I thought Wednesday it was going to happen. I swear I had this tingling in the back of my leg, and then it turned out I was just sitting on my other wallet. I had two wallets. I took my old one off the dresser, and I put it in my pocket on top of the other, and then I lost all feeling my foot. And I was like, I think Lord's coming back. And then I was like, no, I just have two wallets. I honestly, that all came to me just looking at the face of someone in a picture of Ted Cruz's gathering. That's the look they have on their face. Like, I swear.
You know what's a really awful thing to say is that you hate someone's face. I hate Ted Cruz's face.
You're not alone. He's.
I hate it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I kind of. Honestly, you wouldn't hate his face as much if his voice didn't come with it. Because that's part of it.
You know what? I've watched Ted Cruz be completely silent in those creepy YouTube clips that have been uploaded.
The hugs and stuff.
And yeah, is that his son, the obese guy?
I think it's a cousin, but I'm not sure about the. I'm unsure
They
about
just
the Cruz
sit
family
awkwardly
tree.
next to each other.
I'm not saying that they were all born in Canada and have no right to be here, but I am implying that for the. I'm inferring that so that Trump can imply that somehow can be inferred and implied that he can not be president.
It's not going to be easy for him.
Nope.
You know, I wish him the best.
But he's going to have to answer these things to somebody, not me. But yeah, shall we? Do we have time for one more caller? One more?
Sure we do.
Yeah.
Charles, on the Oregon situation.
Oh, right on.
Line 4.
Cool.
Hello, Hal. How are you?
I'm good. I thought you were coming live via satellite from the standoff. Next to the Slim Jim bucket on the counter at the general store is empty.
I come bearing snacks and M80s.
Okay.
It cracks me up with this whole situation. These tough guys, they bring snacks. Got the ammo? Yep. Got the cars? Yep. Got the snacks. Oh, heck. But anyway, the one thing that I have to point out, where's Ted Nugent?
Yeah.
He talks all this stuff. He's got guns, guitars, and snacks. How come he hasn't went out there to help his boys?
Snacks.
That's right. Why isn't he doing a
some
live
venison
show?
jerky.
Why isn't he doing a live fundraising show from the federal land? He's got. I'm sure he's got generators in his bunker. He could do wang dang doodle his way up to Oregon and have Mike Huckabee play bass because he needs as much press as he can get. And then they can do this kind of like sit around and jam session. And then in 10 minutes, they'll all realize that none of the Oregon rancher guys who are holding out know any of the words to a country song or a classic rock song, but they can do Justin Timberlake like they did it with in front of a mirror with a hairbrush for 10
They're bringing
years straight.
sexy back all of a sudden.
I also have one question.
Yeah.
Why did the sheriff shake this guy's hand?
Is this a riddle?
Why?
I love these kinds of riddles.
To get to the other side. I in all honesty, I think ultimately they're trying to talk them down from a nonviolent reaction to this, and it's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of in Silence of the Lambs, where the senator goes on TV and keeps saying Catherine, and they're talking about how it humanizes her. It makes it harder for her to be killed if the guy thinks of her as a person. I think that's part of it. I think it hasn't worked.
If it was just I know you've heard this before, but if it was another group of people, anyone but those people, the police, National Guard, and SWAT teams, they would have been all over them.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a person of color, and I find this every day. I want to teach my grandsons and granddaughters that this is an inclusive country. They should be a better part of it and be good people. And one day they're going to call me and say, "Hey, Granddaddy, you're full of blank. Look at this stuff."
But remember this. Think about this, though. Think about this. There is an equality here in that the way to stop, to harm, it's almost equal levels of harm. The way to harm black people in a similar situation is not let them talk, not let them express their grievance. It's to kill them before they get a chance to. The way to harm this group is to let them talk. Let them express their grievance, because that undermines their ability. And this is, on a completely mechanical level, this is a strategy by the government, because if we martyr any of these guys, all we look forward to is more of these idiots walking into the Museum of Tolerance and blaming Jews for it and shooting up the place, or them Wacoing their way across, or illegally selling more guns and stuff. But if they look like this is just a way to embarrass yourself, this is how you stop these things. And that's what they're doing. This is absolutely a strategy. Ignore them. If they try to step off that property with a gun and brandish it in any way, they're going straight to jail. But if they want to sit there, they're going to cut the power. It's increasingly getting super cold. After a while, people are going to get tired of sending donations. This is what the government is waiting for. I guarantee it. So what you can do is tell your grandchildren, like, this is how you deal with dumb white people. You shame them into doing this. You don't have to shoot them.
By treating them well.
You don't have to end their life. They will ruin it on their own.
Yeah, and you're not teaching them how they're going to be treated by other people. You're teaching them how to treat people.
Right.
I teach my grandchildren tolerance. I don't teach them anything except to be good people.
Yeah, and keep their expectations low.
Knock it off, Johnny. But in reality, yes. Opening fire on any group of people because they have a grievance is the way to do it. We're out of time. Thank you so much for the call. Thanks, everybody. The happy ending is that 5% unemployment, still the Obama economy's working. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Johnny Million. Thank you, Lady B, for being awesome. And
thanks, Obama.
Yeah, thanks, Obama, for 290,000 jobs. We'll be back next week with more of the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Follow Johnny Million at JMillion on Twitter. We'll be back next week. Okay, so thank you so much, guys. I'm disconnecting. I'll talk to you guys later.
Hey, thank you.
Peace out. Okay, bye. So everybody in the chat room, just so you guys know, I think you guys can still hear me. I mentioned the intermittent fasting thing, but I'm really just bringing it up to the chat room, and I'm actually going to do a video about it next week with Brooks, my trainer. We're going to talk about how to do all this stuff. But effectively, what my system has been, and I borrowed a good portion of it from the Kino Body system, but I modified it a little bit just for my own life, and there's some debate about whether or not when you drink coffee, whether it can have sweetener or anything in it with calories in it during your fasted period, whether that removes you from fasting. I have not found it to be the case. I found that I can actually drink caloried caffeinated beverage, meaning a black coffee versus a latte. It's about how much it will stop your appetite. I don't have a problem suppressing my appetite necessarily. I'm okay with doing it up here, but effectively, it's been an extraordinary. We'll do it. We'll do it more than likely as a live stream like this one, so we can take questions. But I effectively don't consume calories 16 hours a day. I eat during an 8-hour window. After that window, I don't, water, coffee, any kind of, liquids in that regard. But it increases the amount of calories I have to take in during that window. So I actually get to have bigger, more fulfilling meals, which is actually quite lovely. I like around, basically whenever I get up, 6 hours later, I will have a piece of fruit or something to restore liver glycogen, a carrot, those kind of things, like just kind of, to fill stomach, but nothing that's loose calories or processed food. if I want to keep pushing my meal, I can eat then if I want to. No, you have water, plenty of water. You can have all the water you want during 16 hours. Absolutely. Like the fluids are great. Just anything without calories. You don't want to eat anything that is actually calories. You want your body to enter primary ketosis, which is the edge right before your body goes, oh, we're going into starvation mode. You want it to enter that, and effectively you can measure it sort of. And this depends on after you've done it for a while. The first big stomach growl you have, about 6 hours after you've been up, wait 45 minutes and then eat, and that's when you'll be in that cycle. You can tell. Your body will tell you when it's time to start looking for food. That's how our body used to be. Like, your stomach growls, oh, I must eat something now. That's not what our body used to do. It growls, and then it goes, go get something. It wasn't like we had food regularly available. So, yeah, a chocolate bar is a good way to, to pace your diet as well and add the, certain fats to your diet and stuff. That being said, I effectively started eating about 2, and I stop eating before 10, and that's my window. Oftentimes it's truncated. I can move that around. I don't have to, make sure I'm continually eating during that area. I can have one meal, but I just only do it during that window. It can be later. It can be earlier. Doesn't really matter. The first way to start it is don't eat for 6 hours after you get up. That's the first way. Just skip breakfast. Have water. Fluids is very important. You can have like green juices, not sweet juices, if you want to do that kind of thing. It helps for a detox. A normal meal for me is actually quite profound. I mean, I'll have everything from vegan, like there's this ramen place near my house that has bowls this big. I do, I cooked, the other night I cooked like this vegan chicken stir fry with bok choy and Chinese eggplant and rice and noodles, and with that I made basically avocado with kind of an avocado salad. Tea with stevia can be fine, I think, in there. But I eat pretty sound meals. The reality is, quite frankly, you don't have to be vegan and you don't have to be vegetarian for this to work. That's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing. You don't have to actually eat well. That's the sort of caveat with this. It's better too, but most people, a good portion of people who do intermittent fasting, eat steak and potatoes and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I'm vegan. But I just choose to do it in a healthier way, and it's helped. But anyways, you can kind of eat, your normal calories. You just want to make sure you're getting your macros. You want to make sure you're getting proper amount of protein, carbs, and fats. And so, I don't use chicken broth. And Maureen, the coffee with cream idea is, if you're during your fasting period, I've found it doesn't matter. I do find that you burn fat faster. Yes, Recepta is absolutely right. Warporn is she's saying Thai food is great for dieting too. There's actually a lot of vegetarian and vegan options in eating Thai food. The way they roast chicken is actually, if you do eat chicken, is a decent way to eat it as well. It's slightly sweet. That being said, you can kind of fill that window as long as you're eating a balanced diet during that window. Your body will go into primary ketosis, and you will burn the fat that's most annoying, that doesn't seem to want to go away the quickest. Quinoa is amazing, by the way. Quinoa I've been adding to nearly everything, and pulses, which is like lentils and peas and that kind of stuff, actually have a tremendous amount of protein, actually more so than quinoa they're finding. And so I'm adding, that in a rotation. And not surprisingly, chickpeas is one of them. And hummus has been a great source of, vegetarian and vegan protein for a very long time. So we'll talk about this at length. I do have a Nutri-Ninja thing, blender. But that being said, we're going to talk at this at length. You can low, if you have low body fat, this won't necessarily affect that. Then what you need to do is, it's usually a 24-hour once a week will help you get rid of the tough fats. But again, this is deep into the conversation. So, anyways, we're gonna talk about that at great length next week. We'll have a big sit down, and kind of break down all this. But ultimately, what I end up doing is I eat during an 8-hour window. During the rest of it, I just hydrate. I can drink, black coffee, black tea. I prefer tea, but a lot of people do coffee because of its appetite suppressing ability. And then during that window, you can kind of eat a ridiculous amount of food. I've never been so full in my life. So we'll talk about that at length, and then we'll also talk about how I. You asked nicely, William, and you should know better. And by the way, everybody say hi to Waterporn, our dear friend Hsrpm. We haven't seen in a long time. We're all glad she's doing well. She's in Thailand. I think she's still there right now. I don't know. But anyways, you guys get to know each other. I've got to go because we're going to go have a play date. My son and my friend Mark's daughters are all going to hang out. And since it's actually getting warmer, we might even jump in their heated pool. Hey. So there you go. But we'll talk about kind of the system that I've been using and its help. Plus, some of the supplements I do use. I like Vega protein. I've used a couple of different vegan proteins. The Vega has been great. I find it mixes really well. We'll talk about that and how to get used to and make that a little more palatable. And then maybe we'll set it up in the kitchen and we'll do a little cooking thing. Yeah, I'll cook something and show you kind of a similar diet stuff. So, anyways, you guys are awesome. Thanks for sticking around and listening to this part of it. I not only hope that we keep you informed on the issues during the course of this show, but also that we all end up healthier and smarter after all this is done. And don't forget to check out the Superior Podcast. I've been tweeting about it with Frank Prather and I. We've just started this new podcast. We're 5 episodes in, and we're really allowing ourselves to talk openly about this, like self-empowerment, getting better, learning. Oh wow, Hsrpm, good luck with your restaurant. I will come there and eat, and we'll video straight from there. I will do everything I can to help you promote it. You're awesome. So that being said, there will be a Sawadee krap. Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we're coming up. But on the Superior Podcast, we've been discussing a bunch of these things, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. So you can use the hashtag HSRPM for this, but if you have any Superior Podcast ideas, stuff you want us to talk about, absolutely, you can hold me to that. If you have any questions about stuff that you want us to deal with, or you want us to actually address in that, we're glad to do it. But we're also setting up, we're both skill vampires, so we're attempting to learn and absorb as many skills as we can, and kind of, you can do it vicariously through us and decide if those interest you, and we'll show you how to do it as well. He's doing drag racing. I'm obviously getting my pilot's license, but we're doing a bunch of other things as well that just kind of ratchet up what you can do in your life and with your life, and a lot of it has to do with health and nutrition. So listen in on that if you're so inclined, and we'll see you guys next week. Okay, all right, I'll see you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Have a great week. You're awesome. Love you guys. Okay, bye.